I'd like to start the facilities meeting. First thing I'd like to talk about is the new boiler HVAC service contract. We were with SDA, I put it out there. I got 3 competitive bids. We went with the lowest one. Bottom line is, we were paying $13,072. The new contract came in at $7,350, which will save us $5,722 annually. The cheapest bid came in with Worth and Company, who actually did the remodel here. So they have on file all the blueprints of the building here, and it was a good fit, and luckily they came in the cheapest. The other item I want to talk about is the roof. Since it's been a while, and I apologize, since I've been here, and since we talked about the roof, the last that was left at a JOC meeting was we had Site Logic in here, and then I was challenged to go see about putting it back in warranty. So I contacted Garland, who is the manufacturer of the roof up there right now, and we had several meetings. And what it was is that basically it never went out of warranty. It's still in full warranty. Since I started communication with them, they've come in and fixed a lot of the issues. Just spot fixed them, if you will. Again, it was a partnership warranty, which means we were supposed to be doing certain things over the years, but we were not doing those things over the years. So that's why they initially said we were out of warranty, but they realized that that was not a good warranty kind of relationship. So they have several school districts in the area that are in the same boat as us, Stockton Valley being one of them, where they put us back in warranty for another 15 years, but they want us to do certain things to bring up the neglect that was going on over the years, bring it back into focus, if you will. We can do it over the next few years. They're not telling us to do it immediately or else. They're telling us that we can do it over the next few years. However, Mr. Schweda feels we should get it done and get it done ASAP, if you will. This is the report from Garland. This is the report and the numbers from Garland. The main thing that they want to do is fix 10 spots up there. I'm sorry if I can't be heard. I'm a bit of a cold. There's 10 wet spots up there that they would like to remove and redo, if you will. Thank you, sir. I am sick, but I was tested yesterday. I'm cool. What it comes down to is again, the 10 wet spots. Several of them are wet spots due to the bore samples that the other company took, where they took them samples where they patched it. There's actually footprints over separately. They patched it and then they walked on it when it was wet, and that's what we got. The other part of the scuppers, which is in layman's terms the drains, we need to do some work with them, recoat them, if you will. That and the edging, you know how caulking goes over years. The edging needs new caulking. There are the 3 major issues right now. And again, they've been here fixing a lot. There's actually a picture in here of one big section that they did fix up there at no charge to us. They're just asking us to put it back in good standing. It's called basically managing your asset, if you will. Our roof is up there. Over the years, we had some construction done for the new vents, new pipes, but it was done not to Garland specs, and they want to bring that back into Garland specs. And you can see, in order, like I say, Mr. Sweeter would like to get it all done and put it to bed, if you will. Option one is basically putting it to bed for 72,000. That's the wet spots, reinforce them, the miscellaneous preventive designated areas, which would be that construction area I was talking about, where there might have been new pipes coming through or new air handlers, and something patching up there not to the Garland specs. And they want to put everything back in their specs. Anybody have any questions on that?
This is just the main building.
Right, it's basically from Graphic Arts, that door down there by Mrs. Reese and Graphic Arts. Everything west of that. So right above us, yes. During Ida, I'm gonna say 2 definites, maybe a third one, but we had 2 definite leaks. And they were in here, the second it warmed, it dried up, they came in to fix those 2.
The area, the roof over the cafeteria. That part of this, that's a newer roof.
That's correct, that is part of it. I had 1 leak over there against that wall, which was, again, the edging with the caulking going over the years. It should have been recocked, and that's what that drip was all about. But they were in and fixed that, because I had to put new ceiling tile and redo the drywall up there that got damaged.
But this agreement covers that roof also.
Correct.
It's everything on this end. It's not the annex part.
No.
It's everything.
From Mrs. Reese east is first of all, on the connector you got the 30-year rubber brand new, and then from, let's say, Dental on is you got another roof that's not Garland, it wasn't theirs, but that one just came out of warranty in 2021. And I had Garland, the Garland reps down there looking at that roof and asking them their opinion, because they're roof people, and they said it looked good, it looked fine. They said, why? And I don't have no leaks down at that end, to be honest with you. I had none, even through Ida, I didn't have none, which was a good testament of my roof, that storm.
So what about the better and the best?
Well, they include other things.
So it'll be if we do this, one of these packages, we get another 15-year warranty.
Correct.
How long does a new roof last?
Well, that roof we have on the annex, when we got that, it was warranted for 25 years. So if you put one on now, you're looking at 25. And what Garland's telling me is this one's now good for another 15. But when it hits that 15, they have a system out there just recoating it and getting another 10 or so out of what's up there. In their opinion, what they're telling me is it looks like bad, because I wanted to say that word. It looks bad, but it's just the aggregate that's looking bad. There's 4 ply of waterproofing underneath that aggregate, which there is areas up there that looks like it's probably a rainforest inside, but yet it does not leak. So I can only tend to believe them on that.
the last, third option. Does that have that coding that you're talking about, give another 10 years out of it? An additional 10 years?
No, that's not no. They wouldn't even suggest doing that at the end of 15. Again, that one down there just went out of warranty, but it might be another 5 before it starts giving us issues. And that's when they would talk recoding it.
So, I mean, the third estimate has,
The third estimate is including, like, right above the JOC, no. Right above the boiler room is where we come out, and that's where the one picture where it's severely defaced, if you will. That's the one area that they're including in option 1. In option 3, there's some other ones up there that look a little rough. And again, in Mr. Sweeta's opinion, we should do option 3 and get it all done.
How much was the new roof?
Then you got another 15 years out of it. And at the end of 15, what Garland's saying is wait until it starts giving you issues and then look at your options to either replace or put that seal over it.
Refresh my memory, how much was the new roof? Wasn't this net upwards to like 700,000 or something?
Just under 8.
Yeah. Seems like this is like, it's our best bang for our buck, you know, they don't have to do the labor of putting on a brand new roof, but they can essentially re-shrink wrap it, we'll just call it.
Right, basically, again, what it is protecting
Three-fourths
your
of the
assets.
new roof. Yeah.
The scuppers, which is again, the drains, they're saying to redo them only because we're up there scraping away the leaves, scraping away this and scraping away that. And in some of the pictures, you'll see some bricks laying up there. I put them up there with wire to keep the leaves from going down the pipe, if you will. So those bricks are laying there. That's why they're saying pay attention to the scuppers for the drains. And again, the edging, it's all metal edging, which is caulked on seams and underneath it, it's all caulking, which over the years, even your bathroom caulking starts deteriorating.
So can you explain to me what it is we didn't do that we were supposed to do for this warranty?
The one picture shows a lot of construction. Well, we should have routinely went up there to fix the caulking. But the general maintenance items, penetrations, you'll see like maybe a dryer vent was put in when they put the culinary dryer in. That pipe was run up through. Maybe that black one is another exhaust. There's some exhaust fans that where the metal meets the asphalt roof. They've just been throwing caulking there, a sealer, if you will, a store-bought sealer. And again, it's not to Garland standards. So that's why what should have happened
So
over the
they should have
years
been
is
putting
when some.
sealer on there, but a different sealer, is that what you're, because I thought you were just saying we didn't caulk when we were supposed to, but now you're saying we caulk, but we used too cheap of a caulk?
No, the caulking is a caulking. I apologize for using that word. Where you see the pipes coming through, when those pipes were put through, if we went and followed the partnership warranty, we should have called Garland and they would have came in and sealed them to their standards. There, it looks like somebody just went up with a gallon can and a putty knife and maybe used a $7 can that they bought at Lowe's, you know, that way they should have used something stronger, if you will.
When was that done?
construction.
When you put the pipes through and the caulking went in, when was that taken care of? The dates of this?
That was long before me, I'm not sure.
I'm just asking, that's all. Please.
Yeah,
I'm gonna ask
I could look that up. I'd probably have that data, but I don't have it in front of me right now. That was long before me. Again, that's why we should have been doing this all along and everything that we did up there, we should have did through Garland with their advice and their people.
I gotta be honest, I'm hesitant to use Garland at all, because first you had, what's the other engineering firm, out here? That we had a report from first, the one that we used to use. Dewey.
Dewey,
So Dewey gave us this big report. They said directly in the meeting, or you said actually, because they weren't here, but you said in the meeting that Dewey contacted them about this warranty and they said that it's completely out of warranty, they're not doing anything about it, right?
Yeah, that's
And-
what Dewey said.
That's what
Apparently, he did not-
That's what Dewey said. Apparently, during my initial meeting, and I asked Jim from Garland to sit in tonight, but he's actually out of state and he couldn't sit in tonight, but he will be at your disposal. I asked me to give you all his contact and you can ask him questions directly. But he came in and met with me, because I went with what Dewey said. And then I went right to the horse's mouth, if you will. I went right to
Right, but you
Garland.
said, I thought you said that Dewey brought them out here and they looked at it, because how else would they tell us whether they're gonna cover it under warranty or not? So you're saying Garland never came out here? Because that's what we were told. We were told that Dewey brought them out here, they evaluated it, and they said, we're voiding your warranty.
I don't remember that.
Well, how would
Because, you know,
How would
I-
Dewey decide or?
No, it wasn't Dewey that said we were out of warranty, it was Site Logic, to be honest with you. But Dewey, I do believe in his
Do you want
report,
me, do you want me, like,
No,
Dennis?
I do believe in Dewey's report, they said we were out of warranty.
That's how we started this whole thing. That's why we brought in Site Logic to begin with, was because we were trying to get a second opinion because we were told the warranty didn't exist. Then they come and do the second opinion. And then it was, oh, well, now actually, maybe they will give us our warranty back if we do certain things. You know, I feel like they've been playing lots of games with us. And I don't know that I want to give them another $200,000 so they can continue to play games with us about whether or not they're going to give us a warranty, not give us a warranty, you didn't use whatever.
I did not hear from Garland until Bill took to them lately. The information we got from Dewey was from Dewey. It was not from Garland.
Correct.
And they
So
could,
I'm not.
When, Megan, I'll tell you, when Garland first sat down with me, they said, we have, let's say, 10 school districts that had the same kind of warranty that we did. And they are presently working with, let's say, 7 of them in the way that's gonna work with me. The other 3 were arrogant and said, we want this, we want that, we want this. Dewey said, too bad, you're out of the warranty. So, but I was willing to work with them, and Mr. Sweet worked with them, and we had them in here, and
Dewey can't decide whether or not Garland is going to hold our warranty or not. Dewey said, that's why Dewey went to Garland, because they couldn't have, how could Dewey speak for Garland to say, oh, they're not going to
That's a
hold
good
this
question.
warranty?
That's a good question. How did Dewey say that the warranty was out when they didn't talk to us?
that's the question.
Well, then I
Me.
wanna talk to Dewey. I want Dewey to explain how they told us that our warranty is out.
So what for?
Because they told us that Garland said that our warranty, that's what started this whole entire thing.
Well, hold on.
Site Logic did
Some
the same
cases,
exact
though, we
thing,
were out
though, but
because we didn't keep up with the maintenance schedule. So if you're gonna call it right from that, we broke our warranty. And Dewey saying, you broke your warranty or you have no warranty was probably a factual statement at the time.
It only would be factual if they contacted the people who were in charge of the warranty.
But we don't have a warranty.
I would
anymore.
call it a
We're
Dewey
gonna
assumption.
state it If we do this stuff.
Well, but we were told that it was not an assumption. I mean, I'll pull the tape. Because
what does it
we
matter?
What matters is, if this company's been playing games and they go back and forth on what they're telling us, I don't want to continue working with them
But
so
there's
that they
no
can
evidence.
continue to play games for the next 15 years.
to this point, with all due respect, they haven't played games. I believe the issue right now is Dewey stating something that was assumed by them or just plain old incorrect.
Well, I don't
We
know.
went,
because-
then after we heard from Dewey and after we heard from Site Logic, both of them saying that it was out of warranty,
Well, hold on
I
a second.
contacted Garland. I
Wait
said,
a
come in
second,
and talk
that
to
is
me.
not true. Site Logic never said it was out of warranty. We were trying to tell Site Logic it was out of warranty, and Site Logic kept saying, it's weird to me that they're saying it's out of warranty, and that, that's not a very reputable company if they'd be telling you that their warranty is out for some random reasons.
Well, the random reasons are photographs where somebody penetrated the roof and did not. So my concern is how do we more structurally pass on tribal knowledge? So whoever did the original roof probably knew you had to do something to keep it in warranty. That person disappeared, maybe, I don't know, but nobody knew about it. Next person innocently comes and said, hey, it'd be really great to put some vents in here. Sure, drill a hole through the damn roof and get whatever the hell you want to fix it. Use some toothpaste. They did their best. but not to the warranty. So we violated a warranty, apparently, without knowing it.
Where's the warranty? I wanna see what the warranty actually says.
Well, what does it matter?
Well, because I wanna know if we actually violated it.
Why?
I mean, I
Because
did,
they're saying we did, right? So I wanna see if we actually did, because that's, I mean,
I believe it comes down to a service schedule. We never did uphold a service schedule. I remember that being one of the.
And I think the way,
but
There-
again, how do we know that if they didn't even talk to them until now? Because that was the information we were given by Dewey,
I guess,
apparently.
the bottom line is we need.
I think I remember us assuming that it was out of warranty because of that before even Dewey came in.
No,
Because we had discussions about whether it was or wasn't. We didn't think it was.
no, it was Dewey that was supposed to, Dewey came out, they contacted they said that they contacted, the Garland, and that Garland said, no, you're not under warranty anymore. So, look,
So the point is, what
the
mechanism?
point is, I wanna know who's lying to us, that's the point,
Well,
because
that's a-
I don't wanna work with a
That's a bold
company.
assumption. They
It's
came
not a
in-
bold assumption, with all due respect, you weren't here for those prior meetings, so you didn't see the conversations that happened.
Apparently they weren't with Garland though. So why are you listening to other people?
that's the key right there.
Sure, the people that have the warranty, it's all hearsay. My point is, number one,
The information came from Bill, Dewey was not here, all of the information came from Bill.
but it doesn't matter, he's relaying information. The point is,
Well, he was just relaying that SiteLogic told us something they didn't say,
So should we
so I'm a little
table this
concerned about the
until
information we
Garland?
have being relayed to us as well.
I don't recall what SiteLogic said.
Well, I do, because it
What
was
does that-
it was a
how does it
big,
matter?
it was a big deal.
I motion to let Megan review the warranty.
I was gonna say, Megan, if you want to table this until.
I have it, but when I'm not under so much pressure, I'll find it and forward it to you. I have that warranty.
Yeah, but it was nice to hear that they came in, they did some repairs on the fly for free, apparently. I mean, they don't sound evil. I guess maybe I'm
Garland's been around a
optimistic.
long time.
What's that?
Garland's has been around a long time. I mean, I obviously been around for 10 years anyway, because I put this on.
Understanding Megan's concerns. Maybe we can just move forward cautiously. While you do your research, move on to the next topic. Okay.
And
What's the
I would
timeline
wanna-
on this?
I would agree with that, David. I just want to see, what do we do? Like, this is a goofy example. Decades ago, I worked with a person in trucking. When you own a truck, like a big tractor trailer, things are under warranty. There's a whole business around managing warranties. What do we do here, structurally about the roof? This major $700,000. Oh, we forgot about the warranty. I don't know. I'm not getting people calling me for roof warranties. I get a lot of car warranties extending my warranty, but what do we do here systemically to ensure this doesn't happen again? We know the warranty, people are monitoring it. When we have staff turnover, there's a Bible, right, that to me, fix it in a process, not by having these random conversations 10 years after the fact where nobody doesn't know anything, because nobody was here and tribal knowledge is gone. That's not a way to run a business.
That's how I've been working with Garland in the last 2 months, if you will. When I had even a little bit of a drip on to call them. And their rep actually lives right up the road here, apparently up on Ridge Road. He's here like that, and he's up there fixing it. He's been up here several times. What should have happened, and it's written right in the warranty, which I will get you a copy of that, Nick, and I'll get you a copy of that initial Dewey report, because I understand your concern. But when
Dennis, can
when
you
those
also send me
penetration of
copies
the
of-
pipes and everything came
We
through,
also pulled
we
the
shouldn't have went up
the
there with
videos for those
store
two
bought
meetings.
$10 gallons of stuff, put all the money in it. We
I'll
should have
try to
called
see if we
Dewey,
can figure it out.
is what the warranty says.
Yeah, and nobody knew that, who did the piping thing, right? But yeah, it was a mistake, an innocent mistake. People not trying to make a mistake, but
Moving forward,
people not
though,
understanding.
I got a good knowledge on that warranty right now, and
Right.
a good working relationship with Garland, and
Yeah.
we're working it out.
I think John brings up a really good point. And, I have it in my office, I know other people have it in their, a booklet that talks about the infrastructure of the building. We've got a warranty section for all the warranties on this building. It could be for windows, doors, whatever it may be. but there's a place where you can go and find it. It's in a filing cabinet, you can digitize it, you can do whatever, but that seems to be the lapse here. It's not that, my concern is one versus the other conversation is that information should be readily available and handled. When someone says, we need to see the warranty on X, Y, and Z, there it is. And I don't know if you have that or not.
I do, I can't take credit for that, but I'd like to, but I can't take credit for that. But under Joe Murphy, there is a filing cabinet over there with all the with a whole section of warranties. Under the advice of Tracy, since I came on, I took all our contracts and put alerts on them because a lot of them say, well, you're automatically renewed unless you tell us 30 days prior. So I think it was Tracy that told me that. He said to make that document. So I have all the contracts on alerts with that, it'll come up 40 days before that thing's due, and then I have to review it.
So the roof penetrations that you were talking about that were made, I assume based on the nature of what they are, it was HVAC or something like that. So we had other companies that came in and did that work. Can we find out what companies we used that did this? I mean, it's pretty straightforward. If you're an HVAC person and you're putting a pipe through a roof that you need to seal around it, that you need to flash around it, they know that. And so, the concern really falls on the companies that put those penetrations in the roof and then didn't seal them properly. And so we need to make sure that we know who's done that in the past. Are they then accountable for some of the cost of putting this back in warranty if they did that and didn't do it properly? That's something that I think we need to look into too. And also, we probably want them on our radar if they're not doing it properly, so that we don't hire them to not do it properly again in the future.
I feel if you went up there and looked, you're gonna find 99% of the issues and the penetration issues were in-house. Again, there might have been an exhaust fan up there that started leaking around the base. According to the contract, we should have called Garland in to reclop that, seal that. But we went up there in-house with a putty knife over the years, and that's what we got.
So we did it ourselves instead of having to do it. That's the
Yes.
problem?
Yes. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but
No.
yes.
Yeah, it is
So,
what it is. I'm not
And just to be
forcing
clear, our roof then is not back under warranty. We would have to do one of these things to get it.
No, according to the letter there, our roof is under 100% warranty.
Sorry.
They're just saying, let's correct what's been going on for the last several years. And they're not saying that we have to do it right now. They're saying we can do it over time. But again, Mr. Sweeta has a point where we should just do it, put it to bed and move on.
So help me understand, if the warranty, so it is back in warranty now. Now there's a 15-year warranty on our roof. If we don't have to do these things to get it back into warranty, then these things should be covered by the warranty.
No, it's like,
Penetrations are not covered by the warranty. The warranty just covers material.
Well, right, but the penetrations aren't giving, that's not
They're giving us
$168,000.
They're giving us a option to will cover those things that aren't covered under the warranty. For them to do the repairs and the maintenance on the roof.
Megan, you'll see the one picture in there where they did quote recoat on a sizable area. They brought that in and did that so that I could see how it's done and what they did, and they layered it down, they put a new layer on, then they put a new film on top of that. But what the leaks that I've been having that they're coming in to fix is mainly de-edging.
I feel like
And
we're
the
playing-
scupper, the
I feel like
scupper
we're
was the
playing a
one
word
up here in the
game.
cafeteria. That
And
was,
you're saying they need to fix all of those things to bring it back into warranty. It's not back
I
into
said
warranty yet.
number one, I believe we need maintenance. The roofs don't just exist forever without touching them. And then number two, we touched them and did inappropriate work that needs to be fixed. So this is, I believe, the option one, like good, is how to get the roof up to snuff so that it lasts longer.
It says
Nothing to do with warranty.
remove and replace wet roof areas as designated by Garland.
Right.
And that's $47,000.
There's a
You're
leak-
telling me that that would not normally be covered by a warranty?
no, because the 10 areas that they're talking about, quite a few of them are the boreholes that someone else put in there.
So again, we're getting it back under warranty by doing the work that, so we have to do these things to get it back under warranty then. This would normally be covered under warranty, but because those things weren't sealed properly, they're not covering it under warranty.
It's a little bit of both. If something happened to the roof right now that was covered by the warranty, your warranty's in place, it's gonna take care of it. You are correct that they're saying we're not gonna cover the stuff you caused yourself, even though your warranty is active right now. You have an active warranty. So if a tree crashes onto the roof or whatever's covered under the warranty, they're gonna cover it tomorrow if it happens.
Correct.
Meantime, you have to fix all the stuff we messed with before.
Well, you're saying some of it is like an exhaust needs to be resealed. Well, shouldn't that have been, that should have been a warranty issue.
No,
It should have been, but it wasn't. It was done in-house by, I can only assume it was done in-house by us because it looks like, even by the pictures, you can almost see it. It was put on with a putty knife. Maybe Craig or Roy or somebody went up there over the years. That pipe was leaking. I sealed one myself up down in the annex over top of nursing. Not this past summer, but the summer before when we had that very severe downpour for several days. The exhaust for their dryer was leaking. And I had to go up and I sealed it, and then did it with a putty knife, but that's not garland roof. But what I think Mr. Khan's saying is, let's say we got that on that picture right there, an exhaust for a dryer, it's sealed up right around it and it's not leaking right now. But should it leak and I call Garland and they're gonna say, let's talk, because that wasn't our specified seal.
So I've had roofs put on, I've had warranties on them, and I've had issues where an area that was caulked and sealed started to leak. It shouldn't have leaked because it was leaking within the warranty period. So they had to come out and they fixed it and didn't charge me because it was under warranty.
correct.
I'm not talking about the penetrations. I'm talking about the normal wear and tear of you already had that exhaust there. And now, over time, it started to leak, and so it needed to be fixed. That's something that they should be covering under their warranty. I've had roofers come back out and cover those things, and they haven't said, oh, well, you should have, you should have done some maintenance to have us reseal that a couple years ago. You're not supposed to have to reseal that stuff. That's
So
the
what
point of the
item,
warranty.
Understood.
what item are you disputing?
We're gonna have to.
I'm talking about the items that aren't the penetrations, the regular wear and tear of seals.
I think I can sum that up, Megan, by saying that you're absolutely correct. But if we followed that partnership warranty, which Garland will tell you right to their face, that it was garbage. They don't do it anymore, but we have it, so we gotta live with it for another 15 years. But under that partnership warranty, we should have seen that we shouldn't have went up there and did that. We should have called Garland in to do that. Now, moving forward, I get any kind of seepage, I call Garland and they're right here, which is what should have been happening, but wasn't happening.
Okay, I think we need to get off the call here and just give some direction on which or any of the three options we want to pursue. And then we need to get the finance.
What kind of money do we got?
I don't have enough information because I haven't been able to talk to this company. I haven't been able to talk to Dewey to see why we were given this information in the first place. And I think
Well, then we do that, we'll move on.
Megan, I'll gather as much as I can about what's been going on and I'll get it to you. The Dewey, initial report from Dewey, everything.
Okay.
We have money in our general fund. to
Well,
cover this if
We do
wanted to
have
cover it.
some money in the capital fund too, that we could use for that.
Any extra money from any grants or any types of funds that we've got from the government, we may be able to put towards it.
But I don't think we're that specific.
I think it depends totally.
I think the whole-
There's lots of terms with all that money. Should spend so much on.
The more holes we have, the better ventilation we'll have.
That's true.
And ventilation is the number one thing you can do to run a company.
We did want skylights, so. All right,
So,
we have more information.
well, there's a back order on glass
was there
right now,
anything
just
that
so
needed
you
to be
know.
done before winter hits?
No.
Okay.
Again, they're tending to everything. Like when I hit last week or whatever, they're tending to them. They're just saying what's correct, what's been going on for the last several years.
Okay.
And we can do that by option 3. And everything in one shot.
Yeah, and not revoke the reforms, so if you read it. I think they're in good faith, so
Again, I will get you.
This work will, excuse me, this work will not only keep the warranty intact. So you do have to do the work to keep the warranty intact. That's what this says. This work will not only keep the warranty intact, so if you don't do it, it won't keep the warranty intact. But more importantly, this work will help preserve the roof asset long-term. That's what it
But
says.
in paragraph 3 on the first page, to clarify Garland's stance, we have not in capital revoked the roof warranty.
And then they go on to say in that same paragraph, they haven't revoked it, but then they tell you what they want you to do, and then they said this work that we just told you to do
We're gonna let you look into this.
will
Yeah,
keep the warranty intact.
that helps.
Again,
That's
we've been
fine.
neglecting it for years and they're saying, don't keep on neglecting it.
Yeah, so the reason they're doing that is because we violated the warranty. We have ruined our own warranty. That's why they're being generous.
Well,
They didn't pick up the phone.
Okay,
Next.
Finally.
I think we're ready to find out.
Okay. Okay, so the only thing that I really had on our agenda for finance is that we were looking to do a contract with ESS to get subs for teachers. And this would allow for interested retired teachers to be able to come back and work in the building. I did send the contract over to Mr. Khan for review. And he had a few 3 things that he wanted to go over with them. And 2, David, for paragraph 9, is that something that the board really needed to,
is that the term paragraph?
that was the one for FERPA?
No, the board doesn't need to worry about that.
All right, so the only 2 pieces then in there was, it says includes an interesting language for the paid leave. For the FFCRA, admin should decide how they feel about that. So,
What I think happened last year is ESS, which works with a lot of districts, got dinged because some of their substitutes in districts weren't qualifying for FFCRA. But because they were technically employed by ESS was essentially paying them that FFCRA leave, and the districts was not. So I think they've added this language and say, look, if we wind up in a position where working at your district, they for some reason qualify for paid leave, we don't have to pay them. The school district will pay for that paid leave, because it's not our rules, it's something that happened in their role there. You don't have to say yes to it. I don't know if they'll allow you to remove it or not, but that's what I think they're asking about. And I get it. I get both sides of that argument. It's not a crazy thing for them to ask for. But
If the school district gets some, when that happens, did we get some federal money?
not in.
not in FFCRA. Now, what are the odds of that happening again next year? Who knows? Who knows?
I mean, this is a service that Palisades uses,
Correct.
and I think everybody else does too.
pretty much.
Yeah, I think all 3 centers districts. Yeah.
I was gonna say, are there any other services at all?
Yeah,
There are, there's an STS and something else, but ESS is good.
It'd be nice to know if they're doing similar things or if it's in the pipeline, but I think that's kind of.
Yeah.
And then the other part was an automatic renewal with a 90-day notice. So either, again, we track the 90 days and know that 90 days before it gets flagged, and then.
The only reason I flagged this one, frankly, was this is new for us, right?
Mhm,
And it's because we have a shortage.
mhm.
That shortage may keep going. And so this, like you all have it probably on an automatic renewal because you know you're going to be using them every year. The tech school historically has not needed to. So this may be a short-term thing, but you only pay if you use them anyway. I just wanted to point it out.
1 year, 3 years?
It's a
It's a
1 year.
1 year with an automatic renewal unless you say no 90 days before the deadline.
Renewal, was it cost us anything? I didn't see.
No, you only pay
That's
if you
fine.
utilize them anyway. There's no,
Yep.
so, but I just wanted to bring it to the board's attention.
So if you guys are okay with those 2 things, then with the other changes that David had put in,
That's the legal stuff. So that's-
yeah, the legal, there's a motion on the agenda for you to approve it tonight pending solicitor review. So then we'll just keep working it through David, if you are okay with those other 2 things. So,
Okay.
all I
On
have-
the agenda for a vote this evening now.
And then, just so you know, the audit will be October 4th, 5th, and 6th. And does anybody had any questions on the financials or the bills? So that's That's finance in a nutshell.
Oh, back to the roof.
Yeah, we got time.
Really?
No, we're back on schedule.
Yeah, we're
Back on schedule.
No, I think we have 15 minutes, so that's good.
Now,
We, starting our policy.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay, hi, everyone. Policies on tonight's agenda for the first reading, and which is attached to the agenda for public input, are the following policies which we discussed at committee as a whole last month. Promotion and retention, care of school property, and we're switching relations with law enforcement, which used to be in the 225 policy, to relations with law enforcement agencies. And really, that's just adding the language of the local police we have a great relationship with, Chief Phelan and the Bedminster Township Police Department, maintaining school safety and security, and with the reports at the end of the year. So we did have a conversation last month. Does anyone have any questions or comments on any of those policies? Hearing none, tonight I'd like to introduce to the committee as the whole policies which entail student rights and responsibilities. Student voice is very big here at UBCTS, and we value that. Surveys, the Student Assistance Program, electronic devices, and bullying, cyberbullying. We updated that policy 2.5 years ago. And the reason it's up tonight is it has to be updated every 3 years by school code. So does anyone have any questions or would like me to highlight any of those sections? Okay. Thank you. Hearing none, that concludes my policy as a committee and report.
So when I want to look at these policies, I go to Word docs, go to policies, and then I hunt for.
You have to
Draft.
drop down on the policy, select draft.
And they'll be highlighted as the ones you're talking about.
Yes, there'll be a little folder. If you click on it, it'll say the differences and the changes are highlighted in bold letters in the section.
So in the draft section is only the bunch of group of policies that you just.
No, there'll be all of
Those
them.
more, yeah.
Yeah, there's all of the drafts that we're gonna get to. But the ones from my, we'll send out monthly, which ones we're prioritizing. And we're really in the 200 sections. We've finished operations, and then we'll get into HR, which is at 300, and all the way up to the 800 sections. And then once you think we're done, we're going to be starting all over because they constantly get revised.
I've been through it. I've been through it where I didn't have paper in front of me.
Usually I think you put up on the screen.
Yes, I can do, yeah, I can do that. And I think we have 10 minutes, but I do have a very robust policy. Would you like me to wait until 7, or would you like me to start that a few minutes early?
You mean programs?
Program, sorry. Thank you.
I think we have to wait
Okay,
in case other people want to zoom in that are coming in for specifically that meeting.
okay, thank you.
Talking about roofs.
No.
Well, just one thing on that, real quick. And no, I'm not gonna get back into it, I promise. But I did ask for a copy of the Dewey recommendation and report, as well as the Site Logic one in preparation for that meeting that then got delayed to today, and I still haven't received it. So I think if we're gonna be making decisions, I think we need to have all 3 reports from all 3 companies to compare and look at the same time.
I'm all saying that field report.
No, I wanted to reset because it was like,
I'm actually looking for them right now, and I'm gonna get them to you.
well, can you actually just send them to everybody so everybody gets copies of everything? Alright, so we have 10 minutes.
Recess.
There's puppies.
Good.
Okay, so yes, we have a very robust program committee agenda for tonight. I'm going to be starting off with our exercise science and sports technology update. We're very lucky to be in Upper Bucks County. A lot of the businesses and being a career tech school connected to workforce development, we're very appreciative of their efforts. The most important thing is getting the right people on the bus, and we put together a world-class advisory committee. Chris Peduzzi is the sports medicine coordinator, lead athletic trainer at St. Luke's University Health Network. Dennis Weiger, who's the president of St. Luke's, we're asking for his support, especially with the letter when we have to apply for in the CAT system to approve the program. I wanted to reach out to all of the athletic directors, invite them to the meeting, because I think it's very important that they could help recruit, job shadowing, and working with the athletic groups, and that is Scott Hagan, Brian Gilbert at Palisades, and Sylvia Glass at Quakertown Community High School. I'd like to thank Sandy Ronjay, who has Kathleen Fortier, who is a PT person, if I could pull up her background, who's been involved with Upper Bucks in the past, but she also is with Arcadia University, on the move, physical therapy, just a great person. We appreciate her volunteering her time to help with that. And I'm not the best at going back and forth. Brian Cummings with CareerLink, Danielle Bonner, who is the head of the Upper Bucks County Chamber of Commerce, and which is also interesting, she has a kinesiology background from Penn State. Jennifer Hooper, she is a nationally ranked triathlon athlete. She has a fitness studio business in Riegelsville. We're in contact with a couple of strength and conditioning coaches, the YMCA, some physical therapist assistants, and this list is growing, but these are the people that have committed so far. We'll discuss at the meeting, which is September 21st, and I'm also going to meet with some people who couldn't make the 21st on the 22nd, but talk about the curriculum, industry search, equipment needs, lab layout, and employment opportunities. And I'll be visiting Bethlehem Area Vocational Technical School to meet with their teacher, see their layout on Monday. So that is what I have for the update on this program. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
I think, I'm really excited about this program. I think there's gonna be a lot of interest. There's a lot of kids who want to go in this direction. It's a really popular field right now. The only kind of suggestion that I would think is, I mean, you mentioned that you have the athletic directors on here as the kind of recruitment tool. I'm wondering if it would make more sense for it to be the phys ed teachers, because, you know, you're not really recruiting people from playing sports, you're recruiting people who have that interest. And so in those health classes and those phys ed classes, that's when you really start to see what kids, you know, are really have an interest in that area and are curious and want to learn in those areas. So I think, I want to say we have like, we have a supervisor at Penridge that is for phys ed. So I would think that would be the person to kind of coordinate, communicate with all the other phys ed teachers and say, you know, what kids really seem like they have a passion for this. That might be a good way to go. I don't know if Palisades and Quakertown are kind of set up the same way as far as a phys ed supervisor, but I would think that might be a better connection than working through our sports teams.
Love it, and I will follow up. Excellent suggestion with the PE supervisors, especially getting even down to the middle school. So love it, yeah.
I know that our athletic director has a lot of good contact with the health groups to, if an athlete gets injured or, you know, if they need therapy, he is the one that shows them where to go.
And that's a great point, the connection with the athletic trainers and the job shadowing And that'll be the liaison through the athletic directors too, because I just didn't want to invite them all, but they'll say at that point whether who to bring in from that area too.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, thank you. Our next two areas that we put together a proposal to send for our curriculum based on some previous meetings regarding our culinary and baking program. During the summer, I took a great course through ACT, Association for Career Tech Ed. It was a curriculum course. I earned a badge on it, which was really good. And one of the things they talked about, it was designing effective curriculum. And so what I wanted run by the program committee is what we're planning to send to the Occupational Advisory Committee. We always thank them because we're very appreciative of the support that they give us. We are expanding the advisory committees. I had a recent conversation with Danielle Bonner. Some of our restaurants and bakeries are hurting now for employees to the point where they're closing for 2 weeks because they just need to give their employees a break, or to the point where they're not serving lunch. So always having that strong business-school relationship, we feel it's a good time to get them into the school on a Monday, about a month from now, and see if we could bolster our advisory committees, get them in and run a job fair. Because we have full enrollment in both of these two programs, and now we need to bring them together. So I'll be working with Danielle and to bring those businesses in. So we really just talked about the way both of these work, and it's the same for culinary. I just want to talk about our goals, industry valid standards, the program of study, integration of knowledge and skills, and most importantly, is reviewed regularly by all stakeholders. And what we want to do is we want to say, okay, here's what the state of Pennsylvania requires us to cover. And I attached our POS so everyone knows, like, this is where we get funding from. And these are all attachments. When they click on that, here's a program of study. The most important thing is, if that's what we're teaching, how are we assessing that? So I gave everyone our NACI results, which is from last month. We know we're improving. We do very, very well here. And I just wanted them to see that. So this is what we're teaching. This is what we're assessing. The next important thing is reviewing our industry recognized credentials, ServSafe, and I put together a list. And just for time purposes, I'm not going to click into any of these right now, but I can. And I just want to say how many industry certifications that our students earn for the last 3 years. And I included other industry recognized certifications for them to comment on if they believe that this is, Pennsylvania puts out a list of what they consider those certifications. And if we're not currently offering it, they may want to suggest us covering that moving forward. Finally, the two main groups of the national industry standards are the ACF and ProStar, and they have their own curriculum, instruction, assessment materials, and I gave links to that. And what I wanted them to do is, we mentioned about that job fair, making sure we're meeting the needs of Bucks County workforce. So I asked everyone, there's a technique in CTE, it's a task analysis example. Follow an entry-level culinary and a baking, and we have the SOC codes, and write down a lot what tasks they're doing, because we want to make sure that we are meeting their needs. Identify any of those outside of our POS, and then please send them back to me in an email with justification so we could begin to look if there's any other value-added tasks that we need to add. And then I always work very closely with our neighboring CTC schools, and Bucks County Technical School had some value-added tasks, which I included in there for their review. And if the program, if the JOC is happy with this, I will get this out to the OACs, and I think it's very important to note that we also have our occupational advisory committees coming up on October 14th, which will then allow them to get together and cover that too. So once I collect the data, we can report back out during those OAC meetings in October.
So-
Post-program OACs.
Yes.
So I thought when we left we had a meeting, or when we had our last meeting with the OAC for baking and culinary combined, I thought the way we left it was that you were going to be following up with them and sending them an email and just saying, what are the suggestions for value added tasks for year 3?
Mhm.
Because as we talked through it, that was what made the most sense, rather than at the beginning when the skills are more similar and they're not really learning those kinds of specific areas. So can you, are you planning on sending that out with this and just saying, can you please share your value added tasks for adding culinary skills to baking in year 3 and adding baking skills to culinary in year 3, and see what they come back with as far as what their suggestions are as things to add in that year?
It will be year 3,
Yeah.
absolutely right, yes. And I'll also, I didn't know if you wanted me to include the minutes from the last meeting, which I can on here, but I didn't want to have too much information on the paper.
Right, it doesn't matter, I guess that's fine. I just would make sure that this is front and center at the top of the email so they know what we're asking them to do, and this is all very supplementary information, but I don't want them to kind of start seeing, oh yeah, this is like information, and then not get all the way to the bottom of what we're asking them to do. Do you know what I mean? So you can put that at the top, hey, just a reminder, if you could, and give a deadline of when you want them to submit those,
Mhm.
sending those value added tasks for,
Year-
each
year 3,
program.
it's not gonna
And I
be
think it would
beginning.
be interesting to hear from both groups, for the culinary program, what do the baking teachers and the culinary teachers think would be the good baking value added tasks to the culinary program, and vice versa? It would be interesting to see, because they're looking at it through a different lens. If those suggestions are similar or not, and that would be a great discussion when bringing everybody back together and seeing what the end result is. That would help with our kids, so.
Okay, thank you.
No, I don't know if I would do it that way. There's a lot of steps that they have to go through to know what is required and what is part of it. And once they have the concept and the idea about all the information that should be in the program and will be in the program, then at the end, if there's some that they think should be added to it, I think that's the proper way to do it.
Oh, I see what you're saying, but I'm talking about the people who already know our curriculum, who were in those meetings, who had those discussions with
So I
us.
don't know that they.
But it'd be a little bit different from the new people that we'd be adding in now that haven't been a part of the process before.
I don't know how many of these people have been part of the process before.
I guess I thought originally we were working with a group that came and had that conversation, and I thought the follow-up was going to be with that group to say, hey, based on our prior discussions, right, we're looking for your input on these things.
There is a core group, but we also are expanding it a lot in the meantime. The teachers have increased, and especially with Danielle Bonner and that career fair, we're going to get a lot more input too.
Well, right, and so to Jim's point, if we're expanding it, I think we need to catch those people up to speed on everything else too, rather than just that piece of, for all the new people.
I think the process is laid out is correct.
Well, but this doesn't include any of what we talked about with the value added tasks.
It doesn't preclude. I think both, it's not one or the other. I think take it under advisement, right?
Okay, thank you. And is any other questions or comments on?
This is a newbie question. Should there be content if I'm in Board Docs? There's no link to this inside Board Docs, right?
No.
Okay, just making sure. I didn't, making sure I didn't have it.
Yes, it's on my report.
If you get to his report, which you can't, his report is not on those. that. Thank you.
And then, without further ado, the third and last part is our comprehensive plan. I've been working very closely with Chad Evans, and it's been a privilege. He's a great person. And without further ado, Chad Evans from the IU, former Quakertown.
So yes, I'm very grateful for the opportunity to come and share Mr. Suida and Dr. O'Connell online there, and of course, all of you as board members. I'm here to just give you kind of an update and an overview. We're at the kind of sort of beginning stages of the comprehensive planning process. We're not directly at the start, but Mike felt this would be a good opportunity to kind of come and share where we're going to be going over these next couple of months. And what I would mention to you is our friends in Quakertown have been through this process. They're wrapping up that process this fall. Our friends in Penn Ridge are in the beginning of the stages of this process as well, so I'll have an opportunity to work with them. And Palisades, they're a little bit further out from this process, but we'll be beginning that hopefully shortly in October, November, beginning those discussions. So all of you right now are going to have this experience here at the tech school, but then also have it in your home districts as well. So what I'll share with you is a little bit about myself. I served Quakertown Community School District for 21 years as a teacher, a coach, and a central office administrator. And after those 21 years, this opportunity presented itself to come and learn and grow with community members and boards and superintendent offices and district offices. And it was a really great opportunity. And so I'm in week 3. I have participated in several comprehensive planning processes, and it's something that I find very interesting and compelling, and believe is a really critical component to the way that we think about our schools. And so I just wanted to give you a little bit of that context. So one of the things I think is really interesting about comprehensive planning and the way that I might think about evidence and data is around telling a narrative, right? And so part of what we're going to do over the next 6 to 8 months together is to build a narrative or a story about who we are as a tech school and who we are as a learning community. And I always love this quote because, you know, sometimes we kind of limit ourselves and limit our thinking about how we want to tell that story. And I think that the fun part of this process is to tell a big story about who we are, who we want to be. So there's really 3 kind of components. There's a way for us to honor the past. So we've got to look back at who we were several years ago. So we get to look at our last comprehensive plan and look at what was successful and then what we're going to grow, what we grew towards through that process. We're going to take a look at who we are right now. How did we grow? Where do we fall short? What can we celebrate? And then we get to design the future. Who do we want to be? How do we grow? What are our new expectations, right? So that story is about honoring the past, knowing who we are right now and who we want to be. I don't want to read too many slides to you guys. I don't have a whole lot of text, but this theory of action, I think, drives our work, which is if we develop a comprehensive plan that engages our community, and again, we define that very broadly here, draws upon our rich history and acknowledges the realities of our present, then we will design a future that draws upon our community's vision of success to ensure that all members of our community achieve and are seen, valued, and fulfilled. And one thing I really want to be clear here is those last 2 components. We want achievement and fulfillment for our learners. They're not neither one of those things. If our kids leave having not achieved but feeling fulfilled, that's one half of the equation. The other half of the equation is that our kids are getting both of those components. I think that's really important for our planning process. I always like to remind you that, you know, that metaphor of seeing the trees to the forest to the trees. Some of you really want to know the details and maybe don't get to see the big picture. And some of you really want to see the big picture and not worry about the details. And this process is really about both of those things, right? And so comprehensive planning is long-term, but it's also about getting those specific details. And again, another metaphor, comprehensive planning, it's like a road trip. And so the role of a steering committee in comprehensive planning is to set the direction, it's to provide the direction. And then what happens from there is the school administration, with support of the JOC and with support of their teachers and support of the students, they get to make some of those local decisions about who gets to go on that trip, the route that they take, how much it will cost, which is always something that we have to be thoughtful about when we talk about implementing. And really when we get to that level, it's the strategies, the implementation steps, things like that. The comprehensive planning process has changed a little bit from the old version. So for those of you who have been serving on boards for a while, the process changed in 2018 a little bit. And I would say real quick, I want to pause right here. I did not honor Joanne Parati, who some of you may know, who's been doing this for a long time. I do recognize everywhere I go, everyone mentioned I've got such big shoes to fill, and so I'm gonna do my best to make sure that I represent Joanne. And if you could just go back one slide for me, Ryan. Sorry, that's okay. Keep going. Wrong way. It's okay, no worries. There we go. Okay, so those 4 components and values really, we don't get into the weeds and the details of the process right now, but those 4 things are really critical. Stakeholder engagement is really important. And again, we're going to define that in a lot of different ways. There are many ways for us to engage our stakeholders. There's surveys, there's focus groups, there's committee meetings, there's lots of ways we can do that. The second thing that's really critical to the process is that we're being evidence-based or evidence-driven. We want to make sure that while we may have strong opinions, they're grounded in evidence and data. We want to make sure that our what we arrive at the end are driven by research, what works well. And so we're going to rely on the knowledge of national organizations, state organizations, and the collective wisdom and knowledge here as well, and local data. And then, I know Mr. Colonel loved that, we always want to have outcomes at the end. We want to know what we're driving towards. We're not going to hide from that data. We're going to use it to grow and challenge ourselves.
He knows you pretty well, huh?
Oh, yeah.
I also like to point out here that in this process, there are levers, right? And so on the left-hand side represents a very traditional way of thinking about comprehensive planning. And by the way, not wrong, right? So we can focus on achievement. It can be rigid and structured. It can be about getting approval from PDE. It can be about community involvement. It can be about compliance, and it can feel like an obligation. And the opposing levers there are, we can focus on learning. It can be flexible and iterative. It can be something that we're proud of. So certainly we want to meet PDE's threshold, but more importantly, I wanted to make sure that it meets the needs and our pride here at the Vocational Technical School of Bucks County. And again, it can be vision oriented and really seen as an opportunity for us to examine our practices and be proud of who we are. There are 3 phases to this process: a ready, set, and go phase. We're kind of in the middle of that ready, set phase. So the ready phase is starting to determine who can serve on our steering committees, start to kind of figure out what our processes should look like, looking at our profile, examining the mission and vision of the tech school, which are very strong statements from previous work. And then the needs assessment piece kind of happens at the same time. So we're going to start to look at data. So one of the things that Mike and I started to do is talk about what data does PDE provide us, what data do we have nationally, and then what's the local data that we really care about here. So looking at enrollment, looking at student success, perhaps at some point getting some feedback from our kids. That's all important and critical data. Achievement data is important. Our NOPI scores are important, but they're not the only piece of data that we use as we do this process. And then you can see there, our ultimate goal here is to get that action planning in the go phase that will be brought back to you in February for your review. And if you want to go ahead and one more slide, I'll get you to the kind of the deadline date. So beginning with the end in mind here, our deadline here is March 30th. So we must submit our plan to the state by March 30th. And if we work backwards from that, you will need to make sure that you provide through a vote, permission to submit. And that would happen at your meeting on March 17th. Working back 1 month from there, because that plan needs to be under public review for at least 28 days. And so we move back to February 17th, which is also another meeting date for you. And so they would post that for public review for 28 days. We'll do some sort of opportunity to present to you guys and share that, and hopefully I'll be invited back for that, or at least here to participate. But that gives you kind of the deadline and the timeline of working backwards for this process. Kind of wrapping up, it should be clear that I think it's important for us to begin with the end in mind. Where do we want to be, right? So to begin with the end in mind means to start with a clear understanding of your destination, and it means to know where you're going so that you better understand where you are now. And so that the steps that you take are always in the right direction. And I think there's one caveat, if you go ahead and click for me, Mike. It's for our context, right? So again, PDE lays out a pretty clear process for us that we will follow. At the same time, it's really critical that we're responding to the purpose and the mission and vision of the leadership here, of the kids that we serve, and the community and businesses that we serve here as well. And so just to kind of give you a little bit of where we're at. So Dr. Hare and I have worked together over the last couple of weeks. We've done some strategic work. We've kind of laid out an accountability and a timeline of things that we want to accomplish together. And this has become this really strong working document so that I know how I'm serving the tech school, and Mike is, kind of fulfilling his obligations here. And so once you kind of get a sense of some of the work that we've done, we've had a couple meetings together. We're working through identifying, steering committee members, and again, looking at data together. So again, like I said, I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you for giving me an opportunity to share a little bit about the process. And I'll turn it over to Mike, and again, if there's any questions or anything like that.
Thank you very much, Chad, and I reached out to Chad even 3 weeks before he started, and he's been a tremendous support and help along the way, and we appreciate it, Chad. Does anyone have any questions?
Who is on the steering committee at this point?
We're looking to have the JAC meeting, which is in October, and our faculty, which is part of our retreat team, which includes teacher association leadership, and GAC with students, parents, business representatives. And that's still being discussed and defined to make sure that we hit all, and parents and students, of course.
Pretty short timeline, if now we get the steering committee together by the end of October.
Yes, it's tight.
Okay.
We're gonna get there. That's my commitment to you, and we're gonna do it with quality.
Good deal.
So,
Work smart and hard.
and I guess you'll post, Sarah, show those dates for, all so that we can all follow and come if we can.
Okay.
I thought the board, aren't all the board members able to join the comprehensive plan? Or, I think,
Sending districts are,
We don't want them all.
no, I'm saying.
well, you can stay home, Jim. I'm just kidding.
That's a good plan.
I'm going to.
Just to clarify that a little bit, I mean, that's one of the flexible components of steering committees, is that there is no hard rule, other than that there is a goal of wide representation amongst all stakeholders. So you'd want to, there are some districts who they elicit the entire board for feedback as a part of that process. They may not serve on the committee, but they elicit feedback from them. Other districts have taken approaches where they've had not strategically, they've had board members serve as a part of that committee, but not to a greater extent than other members of the stakeholder committee as well. So it really comes down to how we define that here.
And you don't want five or more there, because at that point, you're talking about school business, it becomes a public meeting. Kind of quorum for 5 JOC members or more.
Really? Yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
haven't had it before. But I've always found it's the most interesting aspect is going and listening and hearing all the different ideas and perspectives, because when you get that many different perspectives in one room, I think it's really helpful for us to hear what direction and great ideas are out there, so we can say, you know what, we hadn't thought about different things, and those can help drive some things going forward. I will say, last time I was involved in this process at our sending district, that timeline with how rushed it was, I felt like we weren't able to get as much community input as I would have liked to. I feel like it was kind of like, hey, share all your ideas, see, and we'll put it together, right?
One of the things that I will share with you, one of the hopes that I have, again, I stepped into this role for 3 weeks now, is having a much longer, broader timeline so that that process can take care of it. I will admit that the state has made some changes. COVID has given some flexibility, but also there's been some flexibility in some places, and other places they've kept the timelines as they have been. And so I can speak to Quakertown, for example. They started very early because I was a part of that process, and then there was like an 8-month break due to COVID. And then when you came back, it was like we were reinventing the wheel and trying to honor what had happened prior, while also trying to move forward with the process. So I share your commitment to wanting to have an ideally longer process.
I really like the idea of the survey that you were talking about too, and maybe getting that out to as many businesses in the area as well. And parents and families and staff, and I think that's a really good way to kind of solicit as much input as possible and be in an organized way. And I'd be interested to see what kinds of results we can get from that. So I think that's a great suggestion as well.
We have a culture and climate survey that we're doing internally. We have our Association for Career Tech Ed has a curriculum audit that we'll be working with our teachers, et cetera, to get that data that you're going to.
I'm talking more along the lines of what is your vision, right? Like what are things you can see? Like, what are some things you'd love to see us be able to conquer over the next couple of years to really make a difference in these programs? That would be something that I'd really love to see, all the different ideas out there, because even just talking to some community members in conversation, there's some really great ideas out there, and I think we could really benefit from them. So it was also interesting when we were going through our process too, depending on which group, sometimes the opinions are very opposite. Like, for example, at Penridge, some of our faculty were like, really wanted technology in the elementary classrooms, and all the parents were like, nope, I don't want that. I don't want technology in the elementary classrooms. I don't want them in front of the iPads and stuff. So it was interesting to see, the different perspectives from the different lenses people were looking through. So.
And I'm also participating on Penridge's, which I'm very grateful for.
Yes.
So thank you for that, to see how the process goes.
Be there next week.
And Megan, I think you're talking about surveying businesses and the other parts of the community who might want to influence what does the tech school provide
Yes.
to the local.
And that is definitely something that, you could support with survey and design and things like that. That's a good.
That would be awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chad. Good to see you.
See you next week.
Sure. Maybe that's.
Where the hell are the people? That's not a job for us. We decided to not-
We're recording. Okay. We'll begin the meeting September 16th. There's JOC meeting with a salute to the flag.
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have the roll call, please.
Mr. Howell,
Here.
Clemens here. Mr. Format,
Here.
Mr. Kern,
Here.
Mr. Modowitz,
Here.
Mr. Ott,
Here.
Mr. Rice.
Here.
Mr. Freeman,
Here.
There you go.
Ms. Mitchell,
Here.
See you.
This time, we'll have recognition and comments from the audience on agenda items. And I'd just like to remind everyone that we'd like to, I don't want to say limit, but encourage people to stay at or under 3 minutes for their comments, and we will have some sort of a timer that shows that.
I can share it with the Zoom session, but I was planning on just putting it up on the projector so we could all see. Do you want to?
Whatever works.
Okay.
All right, that being said, do we have public comments at this point?
Nothing in the chat room either.
Oh,
Another minute or?
There's a section at the end as well.
Got back to the-
yeah, I don't think, there's not really that many people here.
No.
So I think-
Okay. I'm not seeing any public comment. Or once. Twice. Okay. We'll move on then to the next item. Is an announcement that we did have an executive session prior to this meeting for legal issues. And we will be having another executive session following this meeting for personnel issues. Next up is the administrative reports.
Upper Bucks, we all know, was hit hard after Hurricane Ida last week, and we had our Ms. Danka and Mr. Dietrich and 7 FFA members go out to Lanapp Park and Hercusy that needed a lot of cleanup due to severe flooding. They took out Anna James, Abby James, Dakota Smith, Brianna Bradley, Dalton Granger, Abby Mannings, and Christy Hernandez, who all worked really hard as a team to clean up along the creek and the many baseball fields. It was a great morning. They spent the whole morning out there. So it was an FFA type of community project. So they did a really great job. I just wanted to, recognize those students and our teachers for, stepping up and helping out the community. So thank you guys. It was a great opportunity for you. Our cosmetology clinic will be opening starting October 7th on Thursdays and Fridays, starting at 12 p.m. Appointments only. So if you want to go in and get your hair cut, you can start getting it done starting October 7th.
It's a Lenape or Lenape.
Lenape. Yeah,
Indian dress. Local.
thank you.
You wouldn't know that looking at the word.
Just want to give you a couple of updates. As of yesterday, we had an enrollment of 837 students, 338 students with IEPs and 504 plans. We have an update on mask exemptions. We had 237 mask exemptions, 28.2% of our population with mask exemptions. I shared earlier with the board of our students and positive students out for 14 days. We've had 5 quarantine students. We have 9 students that are getting tested. We have 19, and we have 3 students coming back. Actually, they would have came back today, but we don't have school today, so they'll be coming back tomorrow. So that's my report.
Any questions? That's it?
And we have a student of the month, and Mr. G will start with the student of the month.
Thanks, Mr. Sueda. Anna James, a senior from the Animal and Veterinary Science Program, has been named the Student of the Month for September at the Upper Bucks County Technical School. Anna is the daughter of Jeffrey and Michelle James of Hatfield and attends Penridge High School. Anna has earned the OSHA 10-hour healthcare certification, the OSHA 10-hour agriculture safety certification, Hills Veterinary Nutritional Advocate certification, and the Fear-Free certification. She has excelled in the animal and veterinary program and was named Outstanding Level 3 student in 2021. And it was also named the UBCTS National Technical Honor Society, the Penridge High School National Honor Society, and the National Honor Society of High School Scholars. And it contributes to the community by serving as a junior firefighter for the Hilltown Volunteer Fire Company and as a top soccer volunteer. This year, Anna is serving as the UBCTS FFA chapter president. She has spearheaded multiple new initiatives with the UBCTS chapter and continues to drive our progress forward. She is a creative, forward-thinking team player who her peers respect. Anna has earned her FFA Green Hand and chapter degrees and will be applying for her Keystone degree this year. Anna is employed by Ivy Hill Equestrian Center and Buck Run Farm in Percy, PA. And upon graduation, Anna will attend the college with the long-range goal of becoming a large animal veterinarian. And I'm not sure if you're on tonight. I see that Ms. Danka is, but on behalf of myself, the UBCTS staff and administration, as well as the JOC, congratulations and best of luck in your future endeavors.
Yeah, she's on.
Awesome. Anna, if you're with us or if you'd like to say a few words, Ms. Danka, if you'd like to say a few words, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
I think we hear you a little bit. You're echoing though.
Is that there?
She said that.
Congratulations, Anna.
Congrats, Anna. Thank you.
Can we go to Ms. Stanko?
Oh, wait, can we zoom in with, all right, I'm gonna zoom in on that thing here.
Anna was already given her
All right, it's a
posters
really bad
posted
Zoom.
throughout the school.
You have to pinch the picture and.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah,
Take it on some board.
sorry.
That's sick, watch this.
Nice thought.
You can kind of see it. Wasn't that great?
You know, that actually gives me an idea for next time. Maybe I'll be able to share a screen of our
Oh, yeah, that'd be
posters. So,
cool.
yeah,
Great.
I'll try and get that done. Thanks for the idea.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody.
And maybe put the posters in the future, attach them to our meeting minutes, so if they go down in the record.
The poster too?
Yeah.
So you can get that done. Yeah, the write-up itself is already on here as well too, so.
Yeah, it's what other pictures.
But if I can't get the picture, I'll try and share it at least. We're start doing Zoom.
Okay. Takes care of administrative reports. Any subcommittee reports? I guess we'll start with facilities. Mr. Gerhart?
We had a meeting earlier, we discussed the new HVAC boiler contract, and then we discussed the roof, and its stage that it's presently in. And Megan, I did find, a lot of the information that you're looking for. You see, and I'll get it to you. I got a copy of the original warranty, which anybody's welcome to here. I got a copy of the letter from the initial meeting with Garland, and I got Stewie's report.
What initial meeting with Garland?
It just summed up our meeting in an email back to me.
Oh, your meeting with Garland, is that what you mean? Okay.
Correct. And you wanted a date on the Dewey, this was produced November 2020. So that if you were looking for dates that it was presented, it might be right after, start looking at November 20. I'll get with Mr. Nolan and
Yeah.
find
there you
that
go.
for you.
Maybe the October meeting, probably.
Yeah, well, if it was November, they would have, the report was probably before they actually came, before it was presented, so it would have been right after that.
Yeah, this was produced in 2020 November, so the meeting might have, when we presented it, might have been December of 2020 or something.
Yeah, so it'd probably be November, Dennis, November or December of 2020.
And I
Maybe
had,
we can pull the agenda and see.
I don't think it's necessary that Dennis finds those videos for you, for the record.
Well,
If they're available on the website, maybe you should look first.
well, to your point, when you made a motion last meeting, they're not available. They weren't available electronically, so I tried to find them myself because there was no way of
Some of them
accessing.
are now, as many as he could. I had a conversation with him earlier. I just want to say, I don't think it's his job to find specific videos, and I don't want to set a precedent by this.
Well, all I'm saying is I can't pull videos out of thin air if they don't exist somewhere online. And so if I need to get them from the administration, then I need to ask for a copy.
Understood.
But if they're online
Some of
somewhere,
them
then I
are
can find them myself.
Just
It's
online
different.
now. Yeah. I don't know, we don't know which ones exactly. I mean, I haven't checked, but I know there is a good selection of them there today.
Okay.
I was told.
Mr. Clemens, the last piece you asked for was the site logic report. I did have a copy, but my copy that I had was not stapled. So I don't know, I didn't want to bring it over because I'm not sure if it was complete, what I had. I'll confirm that what I have is complete and get it out there, everybody.
And you have the Dewey report then too, right?
That was stapled in my file, so I'm sure this is complete, yes. Again, I'll scan that in and get it emailed out to everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, anything to add on the facilities report?
Yeah, I guess I would like to know if we've maximized or have we done anything regarding in boosting ventilation already in our buildings to the max? Like we have reports of, our exchange numbers and bringing fresh air in.
Yeah, what I did was the dirt particle level pre-COVID was set at, I'm just gonna shoot out some numbers here to paint a picture, was set at 25 or 75. I lowered that dirt level to 25, so it cycles an estimated 55 times per day. It's refreshing the air. Our electric meter is probably running off the wall.
That's okay,
But
we can take that for now.
when the judge says that we do everything, yes, we did do everything.
Yeah.
So it is getting cycled quite often.
Yeah, because studies found that ventilation is better than the best masks. And these aren't the best masks, right? Better than an R95, which only does about 60%. And nobody's wearing it. That's like an industrial mask.
Yeah,
So
again, that
ventilation
has
is awesome. Open the windows. We'll pay the extra bill. We'll like do whatever we can to get the aerosols moving. That's the best defense.
Yeah, and we have it set as low as we can set it
Okay.
so that it gets cycled Like I said, right now it's roughly 55 times a day.
And in Quakertown, I know they're going and actually physically checking all the dampers, make sure they really open when they're commanded for fresh air, so, you know.
We have been spot checking them, and as per Mr. Suida, we've been changing our filters a lot,
Mhm.
quite often. I mean, we're taking them out to look them brand new, but again, we're not.
Yeah, it's the exchange, that's the best, you know, because the aerosols hang for days. Like those plexiglass things are one of the worst things you can do, because that stops airflow. You know, that keeps things around. And we're talking about super microscopic particles that these things don't even stop.
I'm not sure if you know, Mr. Kerr, but we do also have COVID spraying every night. We have a company that comes in and
Put that money to the.
dusted it, it's dusted, if you will.
Put that money towards electric, 'cause that's shown that doesn't really do much, but.
Do we have all the precautions that we took last year are back into effect right now?
Yeah, I'm just, yeah, the cleaning surface like that, that was an initial thought way back then, and it's not, that's not the vector of transmission typically. It's the aerosols that hang around while people talk who have it. And might not, whether they know it or not, right? It's the aerosols. That's how you contract it.
I think we have an advantage here that the building is relatively new now. I mean, involved through the renovation that happened a few years ago, and they have the capabilities to move a lot of air.
Yeah.
And I think we can feel it. I can feel the air
Yeah, it's great.
running all the time in
Yep.
here. And I assume it's the same in the classroom. I know that some of
That's
it.
another thing we did, Mr. Kern. I can set it that we're in occupied from, let's say, 6 to 6 occupied status where it's circulating and it's on. We turn it to occupied 24/7 so that it keeps circulating and it doesn't take a rest,
Mhm.
which again attributes to our meter going like crazy, but we did it.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else? We have something to report on the finance committee?
So tonight in finance, we discussed the ESS contract for substitute teachers. We have a few retired teachers that are interested in possibly coming back to sub, so they'll be able to do that with contract through a third party. The contract was sent to Mr. Khan for review. Mr. Khan has some questions regarding paragraph 3.1, paragraph 9, paragraph 6.1, and paragraph 7. So there is a motion on the agenda for tonight that to approve a contract pending the solicitor review. So once those questions are answered to Mr. Khan's satisfaction there, to move forward on approving that contract. And then audit will be October 4th, 5th, and 6th, and there were no questions regarding the bills or the financials.
Okay. Any additions, questions on the finance? Okay, policy subcommittee met.
We reviewed and discussed a block of policies included on tonight's agenda for first reading, which allows for public input. We also introduced to the committee the following policies, which will be moved to first reading next month and included on the agenda for public comment. Those were student rights and responsibilities, surveys, student assistance program, electronic devices, and bullying and cyberbullying. And that concludes the update for the policy committee.
Okay, there are no policies on the agenda for this evening.
There is, yeah.
It's on the title of the, it's not listed, it's on the title.
Under the subject.
There's none to approve.
Yeah, under the subject.
It's for first reading.
Okay, we have approved first reading?
Yes, we did.
Okay, you say so, all right. All right, we'll move on then to the program committee.
Okay, tonight's program, we reviewed our exercise science and sports technology program. We are having an advisory committee on September 21st to discuss curriculum, industry certifications, equipment needs, lab layout, and employment opportunities. We put together a fantastic advisory committee. We're appreciative to the support in Upper Bucks County Technical School. It has representatives from St. Luke's Hospital, the athletic directors, physical therapists, personal trainers, strength coaches, the YMCA, et cetera. We will be reaching out to the supervisors of phys ed as recommended by the committee, Mrs. Bennis Clemens. And I'll be visiting a neighboring CTE school to meet with their teacher and review their program. The next topic that we went over is we reviewed some curriculum documents, which we will be sending out to the baking and culinary occupational advisory committees. We're working closely with the Upper Bucks County Chamber of Commerce for workforce development and helping them staff some of their restaurants and bakeries during this very challenging time. And the last topic was the comprehensive plan update. Mr. Chad Evans from the Bucks County Intermediate Unit came in, is helping us work on this process. We have made some accomplishments, and we have a very aggressive timeline to ensure compliance with the state, and that was presented to the committee. So that concludes my program update.
Thanks for that, or question? Okay. That should take care of the subcommittee reports. We'll move then into the consent agenda, which at this point,
Did we need to vote on the policies?
that was my question.
I heard you, and I don't think anyone else did, and I kind
Is there
Oh, Tracy said
of,
no.
it's just an information item then.
Tracy said no.
They're posted for public input.
Correct.
Okay.
It was the first read.
Wait, do we have
I
to
was the
vote?
first.
I'm sorry, don't we have to vote on, it says updated 2021-2022 school calendar, don't we have to vote on that?
No.
We do not? Oh, we have to vote on it.
Well, you don't have to.
Well, I do have a question about it, so,
Actually, just so you know, this is one of the rare differences between a textbook and a school district. You do have to vote as a second district on your school calendar. It gets changed. It's a little bit of a slightly different thing for IUs.
Thank you.
interesting, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have a snow makeup day, which is February 22nd. But it appears, unless I'm reading this wrong, that we are instead adding day to the end of the year. Am I reading this wrong? Why are we not using our snow day? Because that's what Penrith is doing, and I want to make sure we're all on the same page so that our kids either have school or don't have school. They don't have school here and not there, and then they're not here.
Most of the districts have one built-in snow day. We don't.
Yeah, so Palisades has 181 school days built into the calendar. So the first snow day, even though this was a hurricane day, does not need to be made up.
What does Quakertown do?
I believe it's the same.
So 2 out of 3, we added to the end.
So the second snow day would take up that snow day.
That's correct.
All right. Can we move on to the consent? Which includes the August minutes, September bills payable, the August financial reports, and the personnel recommendation.
So moved. I'll second it.
Mr. Marlins and Mr. Harmon.
But,
Do we have questions, comments on the items? Anybody? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote.
Before we vote, this stuff that's on the agenda, we're not voting on any of this that we'll be discussing after the meeting. Just
Correct. Personnel?
correct. Thank you.
Then, no, that's a good question. The answer is no.
Okay, can we vote? Okay, we'll call the question, and all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0. Next item on the agenda is dealing with the Carl Perkins grant. We need a motion to approve the appropriation of the 2021-22 Carl Perkins grant for $145,904.
Take the motion.
Second.
Mr. Cormack, Mr. Armanowitz.
I'll go on the money every time.
Anything,
It's for the facilitators that this year we did not put in for any equipment. Although if salaries do not always make it, then we do a budget revision in the spring and usually buy a piece of equipment at that point.
this is typically the same amount of money?
It's a little bit higher. Last year it was like 136, I think, and this year it was 145.
Any questions, comments?
What is it for?
Our facilitators.
Facilitators.
So we have a math facilitator, which is required through the Perkins, and then we have other facilitators that 70% of their salaries get charged to the Perkins. So we submit their job descriptions to the state, and then they look at it and said that 30% of their duties really doesn't relate to Perkins. So that's why it's a 70-30 split on that.
And they facilitate.
They're the instructional facilitators.
They're aides inside the classroom, so they rotate, go in and out of our lab areas and help our instructors and help the students, all of them.
They're like instructional assistants that you're sending.
Okay,
And that's what this Perkins money is for, educational assistance. Thank you.
nice. Thank you, Carl Perkins.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 9-0. Next up is the ESS contract. We need a motion to move ahead with the ESS contract pending solicitor review.
So moved.
I'll second.
Mr. Armanowitz, Mr. Kerner.
No.
Rice.
Oh,
I would, Mr. Rice, you heard me.
okay.
We'll go down here.
Mr. Rice. Okay, any comments, questions on this? This is the substitute teacher contract. Everybody's okay? All right, all those in favor, say aye. Say nay. Motion carries 9-0. Next up, we need a motion to approve requests for medical exemptions from the August 31 order regarding the universal face coverings and UPCTS when parents or guardians attest to the medical condition by signing the full form prepared by the UPCTS.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Mrs. Cummings,
Mr. Rice?
Mr. Rice. Questions, comments?
I'd really like to make the policy a little stricter. I don't think the policy is very strict at all. I don't think there's any accountability on the students' parents or guardians to furnish any evidence that there is a hardship or some sort of medical condition that they can't wear a mask. And I'm really concerned about what we can do, Dave.
It's a matter practically of public record. Our recommendation as a firm has been to follow the 504 process for these requests, which would be a stricter process, one with which all the sending districts are familiar because they've been implementing it for decades. So I share your concern.
I also recommend following the 504 process for the exemption process.
So I know that we can't make motions anymore, kind of the way that last month you said we can't make insta-fly motions anymore, right? But I have to say, this is like an emergency, right? This is something we could probably make on-the-fly motion for and have voted on, or will we have to make a motion on something and table it till next month?
You can, since the topic, if the motion you want to make from the floor, well, first of all,
Well, I
there
think
is
we have to vote this motion.
there is a
up or
motion
down.
on the floor. So
So-
someone, you could table it, you could make a motion to table the current motion before we could entertain another motion. Motions to table are privileged. But you can't make a substantive motion until the motion on the floor has been resolved.
We can, this motion.
Someone could make a motion to amend, that's also allowed.
So I would simply comment that I think we're following exactly verbatim what the language of the mandate actually says instead of what people want it to say.
And I think, I'll just take my position, I think the people that wrote the motion had the intent and all the, well, they had the intent for the motion, for the order that people should wear the mask. They didn't intend for people to be able to just say, I don't want to wear the mask. The intent was for the people to.
Offer a procedure to have an exception.
Yes.
I think I think the concern is, the person who wrote it is also an attorney. So the person who wrote it should have written the language to say what she intended it to say, rather than writing it to say something different and then telling us we're legally liable to what she wrote, but we should really do what she says instead. And then, by the way, to your school boards, if you have any concerns. So I'm going to do exactly what I'm legally held to in that
What do
contract.
you think it says?
No,
No,
what it says,
Because
word
we're
for
reading
word,
this
what's
too,
mean,
and some
what's
of us
matter.
interpret it totally differently.
That's correct.
You're talking about additional things outside of what it says. You can't find in the language of the mandate what you want it to say. It doesn't say that.
Medical condition is a term of art. If it weren't for the existence of this order, if any other piece of paper came to any school district in Pennsylvania with the phrase medical condition, it would be treated like 504. So respectfully, clearly it doesn't have an obvious meaning, the order. And you, as I told you, you and I agree, this order is badly written in a lot of ways. But clearly it doesn't have an obvious meaning because there are at least 8 different ways different districts across the Commonwealth have been interpreted. So.
Yeah, I think the thing that we're trying to prevent is a one size fits all that punishes some students who literally have trouble with masks. and-
Valid
and-
concerns.
Valid, yes. Yes, and it has, I think that's probably why it listed, at least it put exceptions in there, right? So there's an acknowledgement that it shouldn't be a blanket, dictation from on high for everybody in Pennsylvania school system to do it one way and one way only. So I think what Megan is saying is we're honoring the order, even though I think it's important from a freedom point of view. But we're honoring it, including the exceptions. And I think there's some nuance to, all right, well, how do we do exceptions? That's we've gotten it down to some rub in Quakertown. We're doing it where, okay, if you say you have, some legitimate problems, that's going to trigger by federal law a child fine, all right? And then we put some techniques into play, including something that absolves the district of the choice that the parent makes. But, so I think that's where we're down to, do we, for the 2 hours that the child's here, do we trust the parent's judgment? Or do we force them to jump through hoops and do a few more things to help absolve us?
Well,
Can we add something to the exception form that absolves us of the legal liability? So anyway, I think that's the discussion.
Just so you know, it would be hard to do considering everybody already filled them out and put the pen sample in.
the other approach, and this is, whatever, I don't get it, but I recognize that, so please forgive me if I feel like I'm overstepping my bounds, I understand that, but the other approach, because tech schools are a little different, is to say, well, gee, we've got 3 sending districts who are actually all treating it differently. Perhaps the tech school should simply honor however the sending district is treating it for their kids.
It's a fascinating idea.
We never have individual sending districts make decisions for how things are gonna be carried out here, and I don't think.
Except 504.
I don't think that we should start now. Well, no,
Except
they
for
do their 504s in each one, but 504 is 504. I mean, that's not something where we are,
But the tech school doesn't
With
usually do
different
the
people
504
doing, with
evaluation.
different people doing them, but they're not making different decisions. Everyone here can get a 504 if they need a 504.
Well, let's just toy with this. Let's hold this hypothesis up a little bit lightly and talk about it. So that's actually intriguing. And you could say, I'm a child in Quakertown and I have an exception and I come here and I don't have one, why? Right?
Well, no, they would, because they would have to fill out.
Well, no, I'm just saying.
They would have to fill out the same form.
But it might not. The point is it might not. The idea is if the child from the sending district has an exception, then they should have it here. The exception should follow the child. That's an interesting point.
But if different districts are doing it differently, then depending on which kids are in the class are from one district versus another district,
So be it.
it's,
It's
they have different rules.
It's honoring the child and the parent's decision. It's actually kind of, and it's, in other words, it's an
No, it's
interesting
not, it's
experiment.
not,
What do you mean it's
because
not?
this is honoring the parents' decision because they're the ones filling out the form.
No, I'm saying that each district has already solved this problem.
One district still hasn't addressed it yet because their meeting keeps getting delayed, so.
So then those kids will have to abide by their I mean, anyway, it's an interesting thing as a point of discussion, just from.
I kind of like that concept.
Can we call the vote?
Yeah, we can. But I like that concept.
You can also. You can do anything else.
Well, someone has to make a
Well,
motion.
we're discussing right now,
I think we should call the motion and vote on it.
There's a motion and a second. For the-
Somebody has.
No, it's Mr. Freeman, who obviously should get a chance to speak.
So that's an interesting concept that you brought up, David, with just abiding by what the local districts, plans are. Can anybody speak to what that might do though, and how hard that would be on the teachers and administrators to sort of keep track of that? And then I do have another comment, but would just like to get any feedback on that.
Okay, well, right now, I mean, we're having a lot of difficulty right now trying to figure out who has the exemption form and who doesn't when they walk into the school. I can't give them a tag, I can't single them out, so, and our teachers are in the hallway welcoming our students in every morning and welcoming them in the afternoon. And some students, unless I go up into the front office, I have 237 of my 837 students without masks. When a student might have a mask on today, I might recognize him having a mask on today, and tomorrow he might have it off. So there's no way to really police the students that brought those exemption forms in at this time. And it's difficult without tagging, then we're not going to do that. So.
Well, this isn't going to change that.
Yeah, it'll be the same problem.
So you're gonna have the same issue. But I think the
Well-
overall effect of this would be that all of the parents from Palisades who submitted exemption forms, their exemption forms would now be null and void because they're not allowed to submit them at Palisades. So that would be the big change, is all of those kids with exemptions in Palisades. It wouldn't really affect Quakertown and Penridge much because I assume that if they have a mask exemption because they can't wear a mask here, they likely have a mask exemption because they can't wear a mask at the Sunday school too. I would assume that their medical condition, well, if you can't wear a mask, if you can't wear a mask in one building, you likely can't wear a mask in another building. But I mean,
Yeah, but they actually have to validate that and that's tested and go to a 504 meeting at Quakertown. And that person may have to wear a mask at Quakertown, but may show up here and take off his mask when he got off the bus, he or she. And then how's Jeff supposed to know unless he looks up each person one by one?
well, he wouldn't. I mean, this would cause a big paperwork nightmare because all of those exemptions
That's
would get thrown out and then they'd have to do all new exemptions and pull the ones from Penridge and pull the ones from Quakertown, see what happens with Palisades, throw out all the ones Palisades had.
Fine with him. We never voted on the first one.
Well, I think we should call the motion and vote on this,
No.
and then, if this motion fails, then someone should propose a different motion. Well, you can, because it's on this topic, it's already here.
Yeah, I'm okay with that, and and you have the right to call the motion, however, this is a topic, so, I mean, if there's any other board member who has not spoken, they should be given a chance to talk. I don't mind calling the motion, saying everybody who's talked has said what they're gonna say, but any board member who hasn't spoken should have a chance before you call.
I think Mr. Ross, the only one who didn't speak.
Caleb.
Oh,
She has
Caitlin.
something to say.
Yeah, Caitlin.
Okay.
I'm fine with the motion as it stands. I mean, you're basically allowing the parents to make the decision, the medical decision. I've had parents come to me and say, my kid has headaches, my kid has trouble breathing. You don't want to actually go for a doctor because he has headaches. You know, he takes the mask off, he doesn't have headaches. I have allergies. I have a lot of problems breathing with this. You've been seeing me pull it on and off all day, all night here. You know, that's me. I can't breathe with it on. So I think a parent should be able to make the decision for the student.
I'll also add that at the end of the year last year, Henry did, well, I tried, but you wanted to open it back up. All I'm saying is that at the end of the year last year, because of the heat factor, and, you know, the issues with breathing with the mask, with the heat, Penridge at the end of the year was utilizing that exemption across all of Penridge, but we didn't say, okay, well, since we're doing that at Penridge, we're going to push that on the tech school, and so they'll be the only ones that still follow that here. We were respectful in saying that the JOC makes the decisions for what happens at the JOC, and so those kids were expected to follow the JOC rules when they came into the JOC building.
Mr. Freeman looks like he's still has. Mr. Freeman, Scott, you still have something you'd like to add?
Yeah, I just think it's important. I've got some things going through my head, and I think it's important for, the public and for everybody else to know that, especially since, I'm not usually here. And boy, am I glad I'm here tonight. So, first of all, I just have to state that I think this decision should be up to the individual districts. And the fact that there is so much politics that is being played, with this at the state and the federal level is abhorrent. And I believe that as local districts, we could do what is best, for our individual schools and the VOTEC school. I do, and I strongly favor individual freedom and what parents, believe is best for their children. And I think that that's really where it should be. I have a really rough time though, when, we have asked for legal counsel and they have been very strong, in their opinions on this. We've asked at least at Palisades with our insurance company, how their feeling is on this. When I have people that I do deeply respect their opinion, such as Dr. O'Connell and, what her feelings is on this. So I'm torn because individually I say it should be a parent's individual right. But I also, appreciate parents who are very concerned about the virus and they, are using statistics that maybe not everybody agrees with, but that says that masking is very important. And no matter what side of the aisle you are on this, you can find, statistics and experts that contradict each other. And the problem is, like I said, to me, it's entirely too much, political. But anyway, to get back to the point, I really want to favor on the side of the kids and the children, but I have a really difficult time ultimately with where this stands from the state and with the recommendations we've been given by our, experts. I do hope that, and I've spoken with a couple of people from our state legislature, I do believe that there are going to be possibly, hopefully, some help with this coming in the very near future. But at this point, I just have to say this is what's going through my head, and I have a rough time going against what has been recommended to us. Thank you for giving me the time.
So let's vote.
Yes, anybody else have anything they'd like to add?
Just clarification on what we're voting on exactly, someone please.
Right, let's see.
We're voting on the exemption form.
We're voting on the Penridge model. So it's exemptions would be permitted based on the attestation of a parent or guardian.
Which is what we have in place today.
Correct.
Thank you.
I would just, like to say that, we went through last year's pandemic. We were the only school because the JOC put in place all masking required for all our students in our building. I have 21 programs. We're all, essential workers in our building. Every one of our students, carpenters, electricians, food workers, hairstylists, ag, that we're all go out there, you go out in the industry right now, all of our people are wearing masks. We went 178 days last year. We missed 2 days, a snow day and a bomb threat day. We increased our NOCI scores 2% overall throughout the whole school. We're here every day, 5 days a week. And I attributed that, pardon?
With masks on?
With masks on. I attribute that with all of the safeguards that we put in place back then, following CDC, following the Bucks County Health Department, following the solicitor's advice. We went through the whole year. And I would ask you to reconsider and bring us back to that process so we can educate 837 students and keep them in our buildings without going out for 14 days, 10 days, 7 days, 6 days. We're missing a lot of students right now. We're missing a lot of classes. And we are, hourly based. So whenever the students are out, they're losing out on hours. So I just want to make that, I'd like you to reconsider that. Think about, what we accomplished last year. We're moving in the right direction right now. My recommendation would be to, follow the mandate of IEP and 504 students and medical conditions.
Yeah, well, that sounds plausible, and I appreciate all the work folks did. The correlation is not a guarantee that just because we did certain things, that's the reason that the outcome. Like there are schools miles from here, no mask at all, same outcome. Right? I mean, so if it were 100% effective, then most parents, except for those children who really have trouble, right, they're going to even probably encourage their child who has trouble to try to do it as much as up. So that's why I think each parent choosing for the child who might have problems in their particular cases, still has the tugs at my heartstrings that I can't help but side with them. So now you mentioned 28%, so that's it's not exactly a small minority, but I think I just want to point out that you can't there's no data or scientific claim that just because we did something last year was the reason, that thing was the reason why we had that outcome. I just want to put that little data science out there.
Also, when we did it last year, everybody was wearing masks everywhere. Now they're just talking about the schools. My son gets out of school, my wife picks him up. They might go to the store, no mask. They might, go get something to eat, no mask. So last year it was different because it was masked everywhere.
And I think now this year, the concern is the students and the younger children coming in that aren't vaccinated, that, last year.
They've been everywhere though. They've been summer camps, playing with friends. You can't just say that all the kids were stuck at home over the entire summer. They were out, there were sports camps, there were sports leagues. So to bring last year when everybody was masked up all the time versus when it went off, I don't know. I just don't see a direct way to correlate.
We're just seeing.
Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question? This is Kaylin. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
And I apologize because I am not as up to date on the tech school protocol, but what is the protocol? Did you all pass any modified quarantine, or how does that work with quarantines with people with mask, without mask?
Right now, we're following CDC's guidelines. We were following the Bucks County Health Department, but we were told to follow the CDC guidelines. So our nurse we're doing contact tracing. nurses sending messages home to the students that were in the vicinity of a student that may have been infected. And depending on the infection date will depend on the time that that student will be sent out, whether or be sent home and stay home, whether he or she was masked or not, according to CDC guidelines.
If you are masked, then you have to be within 3 feet of the positive case for 15 minutes or more. If you are unmasked, anything within 6 feet for 15 minutes or more, you have to quarantine.
And I could share too, modified quarantine certainly was an available, I guess it was an available option for us last year through the Bucks County Department of Health. But as Jeff said, this year, the direction is to follow the CDC guidelines, and modified quarantine is not included in that.
So again, those are guidelines and recommendations. I thought we were continuing to do what we've been doing. I thought that was our conversation before. I thought that, I didn't think you were changing what you were doing. I thought that's why when we had that conversation, we didn't talk about modifying, you know, what is in there, because I thought that you were doing what you've always been doing.
We're not, the only thing we're not doing is the modified quarantine, because we were told not to use the Bucks County health department, so we were following the CDC.
Should we talk about that after we finish this?
Yes.
Yes, we can do that. Okay, so let's vote on this, and then to Mrs. Mitchell's point, I think we should talk about that as well.
Okay, any more questions, comments? All right, we're gonna call for the vote, and I'm gonna ask for a roll call.
So yes vote basically says keep doing what we're currently doing.
The yes vote follows the Ben Ridge model for the exemption form, which is just the parent signature
Well,
with no backup.
well, the parents
It's just the
individually
parent
choosing which of
signature
those
with no
3
backup.
categories their child
It's
has.
the parent signature with no backup.
Their aberration, their aberrance, attestation.
Okay.
Okay? Go ahead, Ms. Karen.
Clemens?
Yes.
Mr. Cormack?
Yes.
Mr. Kern?
Yes.
Mr. Monowitz?
No.
Mr. Ott?
Yes.
Mr. Rice?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
No.
Mr. Hallowell?
I don't know.
Six yes, 3 no.
Okay, the motion passes 6-3.
Okay, so to
Next
talk about the next thing. Okay, I'll make a motion.
No, wait, now we can't do that.
But has to do with the same exact thing, how we're
It
enforcing.
doesn't, this was very specifically the exemption form. There is a process by which to do this. But, and we don't know what it's gonna look like yet, but the process is someone has to make a motion to amend the agenda now to include this. Needs to get a second, that motion needs to include an explanation as to why it wasn't on the agenda in the first place, and enough time for people to have notice. Then we have to open it up for public comment. Then we would actually be able to make the substantive motion if the motion to amend the agenda passed.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to add the item of modified quarantine onto the agenda. And my reason is, I thought we were doing it, I was told that we weren't changing anything, and we were already talking about this topic, so I thought that this would be included under that topic.
This would be a whole, we're not making any change to the health and safety plan with the item 10. That's why for me, it's a different topic. You're now suggesting a change to the health.
Well,
and
it's
safety.
how we handle situations.
But I'm pretty sure the quarantine rules are part and parcel of the health and safety plan. Yeah.
Should be.
Okay, so
Whereas I
is there a
specifically-
second? But I'm doing what I'm doing. You asked me to make that motion, I made the motion.
I'll second it.
I think Kayla seconded it.
Oh, okay. Kayla seconded it.
So there shouldn't be any discussion on this.
The motion to amend does not require discussion. We will have to reopen for public comment on the subject motion if it passes.
Motion to amend the
The
agenda.
agenda. Okay, a motion to amend the agenda specifically to revisit the health and safety plans treatment of the quarantine.
Understand?
Yep.
So moved and seconded to amend the agenda. All those in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. I'm an nay. Motion passes 7-2. Okay, now, we are amending the motion to the agenda for,
Modified quarantine?
I don't know what that means.
Oh, you want me to make the motion?
Yeah, you have to make a motion, and I'm not sure, is modified quarantine, are you referring to like
A section of the health and safety
abandoned?
plan. There should be some section of
Sure.
health and safety.
Sure, but when you're saying you want to.
I would like to make a motion to utilize modified quarantine and the same methods and procedures we were using last year,
It was from the Bucks County Department of Health.
based on their recommendations from last year.
I have to be a little more specific, they've changed those recommendations.
What we were using last year, so it's very clear what we were doing last year. Mr.
Yeah,
Sweden.
so it was in post contact, it was your 40.
Fine.
We were following Bucks County's modified quarantine last year.
The idea, I think it was triggered by Mr. Sweeter talking about, you want kids in, right? We all want kids in the classroom as long as possible. So the idea is those close contacts that, you know, like so many were sent home and nothing happened. And that was a loss of educational opportunity. And the longer that loss is, you know, the worse it is for the child. So the modified quarantine was an attempt to recognize that we didn't need to be that severe in quarantine. So that's what prompted it to me, is kids in school longer that were just a casual, you know, close contact, so to speak.
And the students that would be going on modified quarantine, if they weren't masked and they were around, they'd have to come to school masked.
Correct.
Or not come to school, so they would have that choice, because
Yeah.
obviously if they can't wear a mask, then they can't come to school with a mask in that situation either.
So we can give them accommodations, you know, we can wear face shield or.
That's true. You could probably come up with something.
Yeah, I think you'd have to deal with each family's situation and deal with.
Okay, I need more specifics on what you're talking about.
So
If
what
there
he's
is
saying,
if there's something in the safety plan that you, that fits what they have in mind. That's a date. Description somewhere. I mean, that safety plan is is that the one that was passed the end of June, or is that
That
the
was the
one?
original. The one that we passed back in August 20th, 2020.
No, actually, that's the modified.
I'm gonna read through it again, but. Yeah.
so what we were talking about, Mr. Hallowell, is in certain situations, they would be able to still come to school masked. But obviously, if you have a mask exemption, you may not be able to participate in modified quarantine because you can't wear a mask, so you would have to do
This
that.
is if somebody's been exposed.
Right.
Within 3 feet, within 6 feet, for 15 minutes, for half an hour, for 5
Well, it was a
minutes.
15-minute.
It's a close contact.
It's a close
So
contact.
however that's defined.
Close contact within 3 feet for 15 minutes.
I would at this point have to advise against using the modified quarantine, as there's no medical authority backing that approach currently.
We used to send the names into Bucks County Health Department, and then they would make the contacts. And then they would tell us that they can be put on modified quarantine, so that would allow the student.
We're still doing the same thing we did before. We didn't
Penridge.
change what we're doing.
Because that's not reported by the
No.
Bucks County Health.
No, Penridge.
Penridge is still doing what we did before. And Dr. Dansker, the last time he was speaking publicly, I don't remember when it was, but had said that the health department will help guide us according to whatever our health and safety plan is.
But the official position of the Bucks County Department of Health is to follow CDC guidelines. That is
the recommendation, yes.
So I'm still not clear on what this motion is.
The motion is to utilize modified quarantine.
Yeah, but you need to describe what modified quarantine is somewhere. We just can't say that. Fine, it's 8 days then. But no, it's not, it's 7, I know. My point is, we need it somewhere before we vote on it. We need to see it in writing. Whatever your version of modified quarantine.
It's not my version, and it's Bucks
I know,
County's,
but the one you're referring to.
it's the Bucks County modified quarantine that we were using all last year. We're literally just reverting to, back to the health and safety plan we used last year.
We have something from our nurse that she just sent today that describes it. Admittedly, it sounds like we should probably put this in writing. Think about it for the next meeting, but I'll just read this to you. Because it's students and staff who are identified as close contacts will be placed on modified quarantine. What does this mean? Students placed on modified quarantine must be masked at all times except for eating and drinking. They must be 6 feet away from everyone else to eat, drink, or remove their mask for any reason, no mask breaks. Please send the nurse if they're complaining of any COVID symptom. Seems like an odd thing with the whole list, sorry, but if the student is not wearing their mask correctly, please notify the student's house principal. They must wear a mask at all times during sports. They must move greater than 6 feet away from others to drink at sports. They must eat lunch on the indoor, I guess this is specific, on the indoor track in order to have 6 feet space needed to remove their mask. Same rules apply to staff other than eating on the indoor track. Please just be sure to be 6 feet away from others when you're moving your mask to your drink. So
Right.
there's a modified quarantine.
So they need to wear a mask and be 6 feet and distance 6 feet apart.
Yeah,
If they were close contact.
and then to your point about those with exemptions, if they truly cannot
Right, then they would
temporarily
be,
stay at home.
right, so this would apply more directly to all of the people who are wearing masks.
Correct.
Yeah.
So yeah, the idea is to keep them in
People
school.
that aren't wearing masks.
Well, they wouldn't be able to do a modified quarantine because they can't wear a mask and stay 6
That
feet
has to
away.
be part of the motion.
Well, I think that Mr. Sweeter will work with each family in those situations. I think that this covers it by putting modified quarantine, and obviously if people cannot do modified quarantine as designed, then they would have to stay home. That's,
Right, let's say this. Somebody comes to school with their parents' exemption form. They then become a close contact with somebody that's not. They cannot, you're saying, they cannot attend the school even with a mask because they can't wear a mask.
right, so in
No,
other
we're-
words,
We're leaving it
words,
to- we're
modified
leaving it to them, that like, if the child can temporarily, like here, maybe there's like Mr. Sweet said, there might be some things they could do because of, you're not always in the same classroom
They
setting.
have the exemption that says they can't wear a mask.
And then, yeah, so if they can truly.
So they can't wear a mask.
Then they
So
have
this
to
is
stay
more to
home.
benefit
It's no different than.
this is more to benefit the 72% of kids who are wearing masks, so that they're not missing all of this school
They get to come
instead of
back to
doing
school.
modified quarantine, which is clearly shown to
Okay,
work.
so the 30% kids that have an exemption,
Or 28.
if they get close contact with somebody that's positive, they can't come to school.
Correct, just like quarantine now,
Wear a mask.
just like now,
Hold on, they modify
but
it.
it's just like now.
Can I make a quick comment? So one thing I want people to think about too, though, is that for the mask, there are certain individuals who suffer mentally from having to wear the mask, and in other cases academically. And so I don't think that you can make a blanket statement to say if somebody had to wear one for a short period of time, that they would be unable to do so. I think that is why it's important for it to be, measured on a case-by-case basis or advised on a case-by-case basis for the student.
I think the administration should be able to carry it out and work with each situation.
So the idea, Jim, is, let's say across 100 kids who were close contacts and have to be quarantined, today, they'd all be home.
Yes, they can still come to school with a mask.
No,
Not
Only if you
not
pass
under the
this.
current, under the current,
That's what I'm saying.
CDC banishes people so they don't get to learn. We're trying to be a little more humane and allow, all right, if you're close contact, and you're not testing positive, right, you're close contact. Obviously, if you have symptoms, you can stay home, but we're talking about trying to help keep as many kids as possible back in the classroom with full, full masking and everything like that. And 6 feet of distance, stay
Makes sense
further.
to me that that's what we would want to do. But they have already had their parents say that they can't wear a mask. So how can they be in the school without a mask, out of the close contact?
They most likely
can't.
can't. That's why we're saying. we'll deal with that.
Why don't you-
But maybe they can. Maybe they can. How do we know that they can't? What
Go ahead.
if it's a week? Let's just say that. Oh, I'm sorry. If there is a child who truly, like I said, mentally suffers from anxiety or whatnot, if they knew and they could make a decision for a short term, for a short period of time, that they would have to wear a mask, perhaps that is something that they, could do. It's not a long-term thing. I think this is all about keeping as many kids in class as possible. And the current CDC guidelines, from what I understand, masked or unmasked, quarantine is at home. Am I wrong in that interpretation?
That's the model we're working under, that today you quarantine at home only. And all this does is say there's an option for modified quarantine where you can come back to school if you can wear a mask. That's all.
That's it. Simple.
Understood, but that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
That the parents can decide if they want to wear a mask or if they don't want to wear a mask.
That's immaterial. That's an immaterial.
And I honestly don't know the answer to this question because I gave up once the Department of Health abandoned it. So is the modified quarantine literally that you don't have to stay out even a day? You come back the next day with the mask and you're fine?
Unless you have symptoms. Right. If you-
Okay, so you're identified as close contact, wearing a mask, you don't miss any.
I
Right.
never thought you needed a negative test.
Unless you have
No.
symptoms, if you have symptoms,
Only
then you
if-
had, then you went back, then you went
Right,
out,
if you have symptoms,
got
then
tested. But then when you-
Household contacts do not qualify for modified quarantine. I'll add that as well.
So if someone's brother, 2 siblings, 1 sibling, the other one doesn't qualify for modified?
They would not, and that is because they have ongoing exposure at home. So we would of course ask them that they, try to isolate. But the majority, I would say, of transmission is occurring inside of, in homes, in households. So that's the reason why they do not qualify. Of course, this is not my rule. This is part of modified quarantine. I just want to make sure everybody is aware.
Can I respectfully ask that we revisit this next month? Because now I'm terrified because we've already got people who are quarantining, right? And are they not quarantining from the sending district sometimes? And sometimes they are quarantining from the sending district and we don't.
If the rules are different here than they are at sending schools, then they're doing different things here than they are at sending schools.
How are they?
There are some kids from some
I'll have to.
that are not allowed to go to one and are allowed to go to the other. That's because we have all different rules.
We have a motion and a second. Are we ready to vote?
No, you have to open it up to public comment because it was not.
Okay.
Okay.
So is there public comment on this motion to change to modified quarantine?
There's even, I just read a little more, there's even a CDC exception here about if you're vaccinated. So yeah, there's more to it, that there's even.
You're right, John. If you're vaccinated, keep going. That's important.
If the older kids are vaccinated, that, as long as you provide proof of vaccination, or that you've already had COVID or something like that, that also.
You don't have to quarantine. That's under both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is a chance for,
And just making sure that
Public
also
comment.
includes that natural immunity.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Right, I just wanted to make sure that that's what we're all under that same understanding.
Consistent with the CDC
Some of
guidance,
those-
it's the antibody test rather than just the.
post chats
I had it.
relevant to this?
No, they were prior to this conversation.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll give a little more time for public comment on this. Going once? Going twice.
So
Okay, we're gonna.
So
Are you roll call again?
I would like to see, you brought up somebody brought up the comment about all 3 sending districts have different roles on this.
Yeah.
We kind of have to be somewhat consistent. You know, if a student
That's not
doesn't
part of
have to
the-
quarantine at Quaker Town, they can come here, that doesn't matter. So,
I'm gonna, depending on what happens with this motion, I'm definitely gonna be looking into that, because I don't know how we navigate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
So, we're gonna vote.
Are we doing roll call?
So the vote is to accept modified quarantine.
The vote is to accept the use of a modified quarantine system.
And I can send this nurses.
Not we modified quarantine that you used last year here at Upper Bucks County Technical School.
Correct, and not having too nerdy, but it's a motion to amend the health and safety plan to modify quarantine as utilized last year.
Last year being what month?
At the end of
August 20th, 2020.
But we also just defined it, so,
Well, I don't.
Yeah, but the motion on the minutes, it'll be, you know what I mean?
well, do you want us to put the double definition in the?
No,
motion?
I don't
just have to refer to
Okay.
that document.
Just want to make sure we're on the same page, that we're all saying the
That's
same
what I'm trying to
thing.
Yeah.
do. Do we all understand?
There's a health safety plan, it's on our website, it's 21.
That was the one that was the updated one for the mask option.
So this is the health and safety plan
Original,
prior to
original.
original. Okay. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right, let's call the roll.
Call the roll, please.
Ms. Janice Clemens,
Yes.
Mr. Cormack,
yes.
Mr. Kern,
Yes.
Mr. Akmatowicz,
Yes.
Mr. Ott,
Yes.
Mr. Rice,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mr. Hallowell.
I'm still confused, so I don't know.
You gotta pick one.
Motion carries 8-1.
We'll do a chalk talk later.
All right,
That's some sort of.
we've had enough recognition. We should have one more, but you don't have to. We'll give another opportunity for the public comment on general items. Anybody? Going once? Going twice? Okay, we're gonna move on to announcements. Next meeting of the regular board meeting will be held on October 21st, 2021 at 8 o'clock. PSC boardroom, board remote. That's the. Any other announcements? All right, we have some JOC committee concerns.
Can we just, for the benefit of the public, can we go over what services are available and what times each of the different student-run sections are open, please? I think it's a good reminder, like every meeting for the people, yeah.
Right now, cosmetology is the only one at this point.
Okay.
We're having difficulty with some vendors, with our food vendors, so it's taking a little while to get some of that stuff in, so we're hoping, we'll post it on the website as soon as we have the restaurant open and bakery going. But we do have a food truck going out there. We had the food truck over to Palisades last week and deliver 500 cupcakes. And just some other venues that our instructors are putting together. So as soon as I get the list, I'll post it on the website and I'll send it out to the JOC. So we have some activities coming up for our food truck events.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
Do you know if they do sourdough breads?
These guys, yeah.
Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah.
Through call.
Any other JOC member concerns? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Move and second adjourn, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. We're adjourned.
17 minutes.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody, wash your hands.